How to subscribe to Grandmaster JinBodhi's YouTube channel. When you subscribe and turn on notifications, you will receive all the notifications for live feed and all new videos. So first, download YouTube app. Go to Play Store or App Store if you have an Apple phone. Search YouTube. Install. The second step is to register a YouTube account. Go to YouTube app. Set up an account. Your personal account. So you put your name there, your birthday, gender, and Gmail address. So you put your Gmail address there. Enter and confirm your password and continue. Enter your phone number. When you receive the verification code, use the verification code to verify and then continue. Now you have your personal account registered. So the third step is to subscribe to Grandmaster JinBodhi's YouTube channel. Go to YouTube app, search Grandmaster JinBodhi. Choose the right channel. When you go to this channel, you'll see Grandmaster JinBodhi's wonderful teachings and live feed records. Click subscribe and turn on all notifications to receive all kinds of notifications. And the fourth step is to see your favorite part very quickly. Go to the video and then click on the triangle. Scroll down. And when you click on the time code, you go to your favorite part. If you like these videos, please click on thumb up to like and leave comments. Share with your friends and family. Teach your friends and family to subscribe to Grandmaster JinBodhi's YouTube channel so he would also establish a connection with Grandmaster. This will bring you immeasurable merits. My dear friends, hello everyone. So today we're back to our treasure trove. Now is January 2021 and it's almost the Chinese New Year. But the COVID situation, the pandemic is even more serious. I'd like to give you some reminders so that you can have a safe Chinese New Year. Can I invite Christine to explain it? Well, Chinese New Year usually is the most important festival for Chinese. Usually at this time, every Bodhi meditation center would receive all people in the public to come to pay respect to Buddha, to offer incense, and then we have, energy healings, and so we're usually full of people. But right now is it happens to be the time when the pandemic is actually developing and it's very, very serious at the moment. And so this year, we'd like to remind every Bodhi Meditation Center the most important thing is to protect everybody's safety and health instead of receiving the general public. And even during the Chinese New Year time, better not, all the centers better not open to the public to protect the safety of the center and everyone. I would also like to remind everyone some of the important measures to protect everyone, including, our students, our disciples, our staff and volunteers, and everyone. If you don't have to go out, then just stay home and be far away from the crowd and public, and try to avoid going to the, any gatherings. And if you have to go out, always remember to wear mask, wear mask, wear mask. And if you have to go anywhere, if you have to, go grocery or have to go to work or go to school, you need to wear facial mask. And when you get back home, you need to discard the facial mask right away into a covered garbage bin. And if you use a reusable facial mask, then you need to wash it right away. And before you put on the facial mask, and before and after you take off your facial mask, you need to wash your hands and make sure the mask will cover your nose, your mouth, and your chin. There's another very important thing to do is to wash your hands regularly. Use running water and soap. And somebody asked me today, what is running water? It means that don't use like a basin to collect some water and then wash in the basin. I would recommend everybody to use, just turn on the tap. So use the running water to wash your hands. So the dirty water will just be washed away and run away. And wash at least minimum 20 seconds. And you also use disinfected, soap and hand soap. And also very important is, what we use most is our cell phone and our computer. So you need to disinfect your cell phone, every side of your cell phone, and also the keyboard of your computer. And also a lot of the surfaces that you touch all the time, including the tables and handles. And when you order things, when the package arrives, you also need to be very careful. Use gloves, disposable gloves, to receive the parcel, and then use 70% alcohol to spray on the packaging, and do not open it right away. Leave it there for a few hours before you would open the packaging. And today, I also learned 75% alcohol is actually most effective. It's not the higher, the better. So I'd like to remind our friends to, to remember that. And if you have to cough or sneeze, it's quite embarrassing. And so make sure you would wear facial masks. And even so, you should still cover your mouth and nose. And if you need to use a tissue to wipe your nose and mouth, then you need to throw it away right away afterwards into the garbage bin. And if you're staying home, you also need to keep ventilation. And once in a while, from time to time, you can let up some incense, like our Bodhi's sandalwood incense and agarwood incense. And I would also suggest that you can drink more pu'er tea, our Bodhi's pu'er tea, and also hot water. Especially in the winter, we should also protect ourselves from cold. Some people just get cold. Some cold wind hit them and they got cold, and that would be very dangerous. And some, specialists also remind us it's very, very important to boost our immune system. Actually, in Bodhi meditation, we have very, wonderful ways to boost our immune system. We can practice energy bagua aerobics, and especially energy bagua practice. And this will quickly help us to boost our immune system. And also, we could practice the meditation of greater illumination, and we can practice chanting and help us to be full of energy. And during this period of time, I think it's very important to protect our health, not stay up too late. And I would remind you not to eat not to eat raw food. Usually people like to eat like salad or, those raw food, but I would recommend everybody to eat cooked food and avoid raw food, and also have, proper exercises. A lot of people stay home and they always complain about how boring it is, and so it's very boring, and it's a mental challenge. And so try to have a very good environment and harmony with your family, so that you have a very nice environment. It's very important. So during this period of time in the pandemic, protect our safety and health and our life is the most important. It's the first priority. And do not, take it, easy. I mean, right now, really, you should put this as your priority and protect yourself well. And I wish you all, auspiciousness and wish fulfilling. This time, a lot of people feel very tiring because the pandemic has lasted very long. So their protective measures are becoming loosen up, not very strict anymore. So we would like to remind everybody right now, it is very, very important to keep up the protection. Well, Grandmaster says the pandemic has already been a whole year. We haven't experienced any war, and for a pandemic to last for a year, it has never happened before. When it lasts long, then you just got, you don't feel it's that serious, and especially because the Chinese New Year is coming, you want to go visit your friends, and you like to socialize, and you want to create some gathering, and it's very likely to create problems. And so at this time, we would like you to avoid any gatherings and discipline yourself, not just to protect your own health, and at the same time not to bring trouble to anybody else, to minimize the possibility of being affected. And that would also be a good thing to do for the whole society. So Grandmaster said this year is a very special time and year. So in the Chinese New Year, I would recommend everybody to say Happy New Year through your phone. If you'd like to drink some alcohol, maybe you can have a virtual meeting and you can drink some wine together, and you should practice more, chant more, practice energy bagua aerobics. I hope you practice at least 2 or 3 times energy bagua aerobics. And so like some movements and some more sitting still combined together help for your health. And if you can practice all of them, it will usually help greatly for protecting your health. And you can also come to my YouTube channel and my Facebook. There are so many teachings. You can go over all these teachings. We have the family precepts, and we have the new chanting mantras, and we put them on the we put them online like 24 hours live, and it helps you to kind of what we call biguan, which is a secluded practice. And you're not, instead of wasting time and being bored at home, you're getting more knowledgeable and healthier. And these knowledges, and especially these good knowledge, are very, very good for your mind and your spirit. And so I hope you would keep a very healthy lifestyle and practice. Keep up the practice. All right. Okay, so today what we're going to talk is about the Buddhist statues in the Northern Wei dynasty. The art of Buddhist statues and scriptures are actually very outstanding. And in the whole Chinese history, I would think the sculptures at this time is actually most outstanding. And it was about 1500, 1600 years ago. Those scriptures are so delicately made. At that time, they don't have many iron or steel tools. Last time we mentioned about the cast bronze statues at that time. At that time, it was more rare. Most of the statues are made with stones, and sometimes they use the whole mountain to carve, and like several dozens of meters high, like the Yungang Grotto and in Shanxi province in Datong. I went there personally and to worship the statue, the Buddhist statue, and it was so magnificent and solemn and very unique too. I'd like to introduce the history of that period of time for you to understand the things and art of that time. You probably need to know the history first. At that time, there was a very famous emperor called Xiaowen Emperor. He was the 7th emperor in the Northern Wei dynasty. And that was from 471 to 499 AD. And the name of his time is called Taihe. He was a very famous politician and reformer. He actually doesn't belong to the Han nationality. He belongs to a minority. So it was not in the middle of China. It was so his last name was also his last name was like Toba. He belongs to the Xianbei nationality. So Toba was his last name. Yeah. For you, it's probably easier to remember as Xiaowen Emperor. And their clothes, their appearances are not the same as the Han people. So they're like, they have agriculture, but they also have hunting. So it's a little bit similar to Tibetans, but also has a lot of course, still a lot of difference from the Tibetans, but they're also different from the Han nationality because the Han nationality mostly relying on agriculture. So they have both the agriculture and also some hunting. So most of the men, they're very good at riding on horses. So they are very good at hunting. So they need to do that. And therefore, this Xianbei nationality, the men in this nationality, they are very, very good at like martial arts and especially riding on the horse to fight with people and shoot and archery, they're also very good. And when they fight with Han, usually, especially one-on-one, they're stronger than the Han people. So is Xiaowen Emperor very fighting very much? No, he was not, because he was the 7th emperor. The first 1 or 2 emperor, they need to be very good at fighting to be able to establish a new dynasty. But the 3rd and 4th was starting, well, they won't necessarily to be very good at fighting, especially until him. He was the 7th emperor. He united the whole China, Henan, Hebei, and Shandong provinces. They are all Han nationality, and he used the management of Xianbei nationality. It doesn't really fit those Han people. So he was very, he wanted to learn the culture and knowledge of the Han people. And he realized when he used their way to control and manage the Han people, it wasn't very effective. And this dynasty has already been maybe 60 or 100 years, so he promoted that all the Xianbei nationalities to Chinalize. He promotes the Chinalization so that they will use the Han language, they will eat Han food, and they will marry Han people. So he prohibit Xianbei people to marry Xianbei people. Otherwise, they might get fined and also even put to prison. So he promoted the Xianbei people to marry Han people. That's why now there's no Xianbei, like pure Xianbei nationalities. No more, because they have been Chinalized, and even the last name Toba also needs to change. I think they changed to Liu or Yuan, or because in this big clan they have many different last names, and the last name they used to be 2 characters, then they changed to only 1 character. Like the Han people usually the last name has only 1 character, and so they also changed to 1 character. So he's a very practical person. He learned all the, the culture, the knowledge, and a lot of things from Han. And so he was a very wise and outstanding emperor, and very open-minded, and very happy to learn new things. So Christine said, as an emperor, when he managed a country, he probably thinks that the Han people, they are more developed. Does he look forward to those? And he wanted to learn, right? But talking about religion, why Xiaowen Emperor really promote Buddhism? All right. This is because of their history. Well, in his nationality, they don't have any religious belief because their nationality was independent in the western part of China, and so Taoist culture used to be in Henan, Hebei, and Shandong in the middle of China. And Xianbei nationality, in that area, they have their own way to believe, to be in one with nature, but it's not Buddhism or Taoism. But at that time, especially in north of China, right now, I think like Xinjiang and Afghanistan and Pakistan and or even Persian, those areas, they were affected by Buddhism. So their influence from Buddhism, because he was the emperor, of course he would have already, encountered with some, ambassadors or business person or diplomats from those areas. Maybe they would send presents to him, and they all have these Buddhist characteristic, and I think maybe they also have some monks from the Middle East to come to China, and if they want to legally promote Buddhism, they need to be approved by the Chinese authority, because otherwise they have the foreigners' appearance with the foreign language. If they cannot be approved and protected by the government, then maybe they would be sent away. So they need to get the approval from the emperor. Then they can probably build a temple and teach and promote Buddhism. In Yungang Grotto, those grand Buddhist statues, their face and their facial appearance and their body looks more like from that area, not very they don't look like Han people. And now I like to talk about some stories of how Xiaowen Di get to learn Buddhism and approach Buddhism. Xianbei nationalities, the men usually go hunting, right? I mentioned that already. Especially in the Qing dynasty, you usually think riding on the horse and go hunting is just a luxury sport. But actually, at that time, no. Especially in Europe and in some other areas, man needs to go hunting to support the whole family, or even just to protect the family. When there was no war, they use it as a sport, as an exercise, so that they will always be very alerted, and so the emperor would always usually like 2 or 4 times a year, the emperor would also go hunting, may go to the mountains, maybe to hunt for maybe a wolf or ox or something, wild ox or something. And when they ride on a horse. They need to run the horse, and the emperor also, they cannot just have the whole, those bodyguards surround him. So the empress needs to be very knowledgeable and also have very good martial arts skills. But in the mountains, it's not very flat. When the emperor goes inside, if the road is very narrow, his bodyguards may be behind him. Those will be behind him. If the emperor goes too fast and those imperial guards cannot catch up, there was once he went very fast, and then all of a sudden a tiger came towards the emperor, and the emperor ran very fast. The imperial guard hasn't caught up yet, and so he was like, "Oh my gosh!" He really regretted coming to hunt this time, and all of a sudden, there was a monk coming out and fight with the tiger, and the tiger went away. So the monk saved the emperor's life. So the emperor asked the monk, "What is your name?" So the emperor said, "Did you know that I'm here?" He said, "No, I don't know." And this monk is very good at martial arts, and even though there are tigers in the mountain, he was not afraid because he has very he meditates in the mountain where there are tigers because he has very good kung fu. And when the tiger comes, he can fight away the tiger. He was very strong, and so this monk saved the life of the Shaolin emperor. But at the time, he didn't know that this is the emperor. He just saw that the tiger is going to, kill someone. So he just naturally went to save his life because he was very compassionate, and he doesn't want any man to be the tiger's breakfast. So the emperor. And later, when the imperial guards came and said, "Oh, they told the monk that this is the emperor." And so the emperor said, "What prize you want?" And this monk said, "No, I don't need anything. I didn't want anything when I saved you." And so he just took the monk to the palace, and then the monk said, "You see, I saved your life. I didn't know that you are the emperor. So could you, Emperor, build a temple for me here on this mountain?" And the monkey said, "Of course, no problem at all." So the emperor built a temple, in that mountain, and he also had very, very good impression on Buddhism. And this monk saved his life, and he had a dream. He was tied by some, evil man, and then Guanyin Bodhisattva came to save him again. And so he thought, "Oh, this is the spirit of the Guanyin Bodhisattva." And so the monk also told him, "The image that appeared in your dream who saved you is actually looks like Grandmaster Bodhisattva." And so he helped the monk to build the temple. And this monk now became the emperor's good friend, and they always talk about Buddhism. This monk has very high kung fu, and And he told the emperor, if you use, compassion to rule the country, it would be very auspicious, and you don't have to always, pacify these people. Like people will not rebel because you always treat your people with love, with compassion. If you always kill them and even kill all their families, then they will always want to rebel. So this monk saved his life and also taught him a lot of Buddhist concepts to rule the country. These, your people, they will listen to you because of your virtue. If you're loving and virtuous, then they will naturally listen to you. But if you kill the person, then all his descendants will always have the hatred towards you. So it won't be a peaceful country. If you want your country to last long, you should be like the parents looking after their children. It's like the Buddha loving all sentient beings. So when you rule the country, you should be like the Buddha to love all people. And this education actually matches what CiBeiYin Emperor wanted to hear. He wanted to change his own, culture when they always kill. He wanted to be more virtuous. And so this emperor thought, oh yes, Buddhism is very good. If I use this to rule my country, it would be so wonderful. So he allowed this monk in his country. He actually found the best place to build Buddhist statues in his country, and he would like the Buddha's image to help me to rule the country, and his compassionate light will shine on my country and on all my people, and I will be like him, and I will also be compassionate. So he built and carved many Buddhist statues, and in many mountains, and he carved many Buddha statues, and he hoped that Buddha's and he wanted to be as compassionate as Buddha. And that's how they eventually had that Longmen Grotto in Luoyang City. At that time, there are also many enlightened cultivators came to China from Middle East because he was the emperor. So he received many masters from different areas, and they also came here to teach Buddhism and accept some disciples. And Christine said, when the emperor meet those, Buddhist monks, the office where he meet those monks, he also called this office a temple. Well, he called it Si, which means temple. And now, many Buddhist temples, they also call them Shi. Like Shaolin Si or Jiming Si, which means Shaolin Temple or Jiming Temple. And so this Si means temple. But this Si started from Han Dynasty. In Han Dynasty, there are already monks from India. At that time, the emperor will meet those Indian monks. Batuo. He met the Indian monk Batuo. Batuo came all the way from India to China, and he need to he actually came to China with the letter from the Indian emperor, and he also need to meet the Chinese emperor, so they will have like a formal reception. And so where he can stay. Then the office where they now we call them different names for the national government offices. When we watch some movies about 包公 or something, they say, oh, come to 大理寺 大理 temple to come and find me. This 大理寺 is not a temple at that time. It was actually a government bureau. So the first monk that the emperor received was Batuo, and he arranged Batuo to live and stay is a si. And this monk, carried a lot of sutras on the white horse. So the place, the residence where Batuo stayed was named White Horse Si. And so Batuo start to have some ceremonies there and also accept disciples there. And after that, when they build any temples, they also call it Si. And at that time, Batuo's disciple was also, actually, Xiaowen emperor built the Shaolin temple under the Songshan mountain for this monk Batuo. At that time, there are many monks coming all the way from India to China to spread Buddhism. And there's another monk who was very, very famous, who is very, very famous, Buddha Singha. His name was Buddha Singha. And he was from ancient India. He was a very talented and almost mysterious monk who has very powerful Dharma power. In Chinese, we call 佛图灯. Buddha in English, it's Buddha Singha. Buddha Singha actually means the disciple of Buddha. We are all disciples of Buddha, but in English, Buddha Singha is this. So Buddha Singha was very talented even in his childhood. When he was learning Buddhism, he was in India. He has very high Dharma power. When he was 79 years old, he walked all the way. At that time, to be 79 years old, he came all the way from India to come to China to promote Buddhism. A lot of people at that time, they lived very short life, like 20 or 30 years old, maybe they're seniors, and like 79 is like, oh my gosh. And he didn't bring any sutras with him, but he can recite the scriptures like millions of words, and he can talk about the scripture without even having any scriptures in his hand. And the people in China was very surprised, and when he was debating with the Chinese people, nobody can win him, and so a lot of people really admired him, and they found that he has very profound knowledge in Buddhism. So when he arrived in Luoyang city when he was 79, there are many people who really admired him and followed him. People from the, western part of China, and they and from many different parts of China to come to learn Buddhism from Buddha Singha. When he was debating with other people in China, those people can never defeat him, but he never hold a piece of paper or a sutra to teach them or debate with them. Everything is just in his mind or heart. And what is more impressive is that he has very high Dharma power. That was the later Zhao dynasty, and the emperor at that time was Shile, and Shile was a very was a person who was very strong and very good at fighting. And one of his general was Guo Fujiang. But Guo Fujiang was a Buddhist, and he was one of the disciples of Buddha Singha. And so this general think that Buddha Singha is like just amazing, because every single time Buddha Singha would be able to predict whether they can win in this battle or not. So at that time, Fotudeng hasn't met Shile yet. And so this general always tells Shile, oh, this time we're going to win. But this time we will not be able to win. Even so, every single time Guo Fujiang, this general, would always say right. And so Shile was very, very surprised. Well, you don't look like someone who has, supernatural power. How can you always predict correctly? And he has never failed to predict right. And so this emperor was very curious. And so this Guo Fujiang, this general said, oh, it's actually not me. My teacher, my master was very high level. Every time he told me whether we can win or not. And then that's how I tell you. And then this emperor was very interested and really wanted to meet this monk. And so he invited Buddha Singha to come to his palace, and he asked why Buddhism is, why there are so many people learn from you, and I heard that you always can predict the future. And then at that time, Buddha Singha knows that at that time, talking to an emperor, any Buddhist theorist won't be effective. So he will not talk about Buddhism. He would just show him Dharma power. He said, I will show you something, you can see with your own eyes. an evidence. And so he has like an iron bowl, and he put some water in it, and then he would chant. After a while, in the water, it's just from the water, suddenly a lotus flower grew out of the water, and the lotus flower was even shining light. And when Shile heard about, this monk can always predict, he was already felt very amazing. And now when he see with his own eyes that this can happen in front of his eyes, he really felt very shocked and impressive. And so that was the first story about Buddha Singha. So he showed his Dharma power to convince Shile. And then Buddha Singha told Shile, you should rule the country with compassion. And only when you are kind to your people, then all the divinities will show fortunate signs. If you are very cruel to your people, then all the signs of disaster will appear. Well, there are many, history can prove this. When Shile has already seen the lotus flower appeared from the water, and then after he heard what Buddha Singha has told him about how to rule the country, Shile completely agreed with the way to rule the country. And so he wanted his people to enjoy peace and harmony. And so that's how Buddha Singha used his Dharma power and his virtue to educate this emperor and to change him. And ever since then, this Emperor Shile determined not to kill people without any reason. And so all the people over there will also be Buddhists. At that time, the capital city was Luoyang. Liu Yao is the king of the former Zhao dynasty. And so Liu Yao wanted to attack Shile. And Shile wanted to go and fight with Liu Yao himself. So every general and every minister persuaded Shile to fight with him. And he said, you already at this age, you should stay here. Don't go fight by yourself. Lead the army yourself. And so that general, who was Buddha Singha's disciple, went to ask Buddha Singha again. And he said, just to protect my country, should I go and fight with him? And so he wanted to know whether he should lead the army himself. And Buddha Singha told him, this Buddha pagoda, one of the bell, the sound of the bell, the sound of the bell actually has already told me that if you go and fight with Liu Yao would be caught. And so Buddha Singha actually approved and supported that he should go and fight with Liu Yao himself. And so Shile then determined to go and fight himself and asked his eldest son Shihong to stay home to guard his own country. Xianghong and Xingtai, which is the Xingtai, currently. That area, Xingtai, was actually a very important city, in the development of the development of Buddhism. And so the eldest son Shi Hong and Buddha Singha is now staying home, and the Emperor Shi Le goes to fight with Liu Yao. And when Liu Hong and Buddha Singha was staying home, Shi Le actually, just as what was predicted by Buddha Singha, Shi Le won the battle, and Liu Yao was defeated, and he fell into the water, and another son of this emperor caught him alive. And Buddha Singha was far away from them, and he just put some rouge and some sesame oil, mix them together, and put the paste on his palm. And then he could see that there are many people, many figures can be shown in the palm. And then among these figures, one of the figure seems to be caught, and there was a red silk thread like tying along the neck. And so Buddha Singha told the eldest son of the emperor, he said, "Oh, that Liu Yao has already been caught. They already win the battle." And later, when the Emperor Shi Le came back, when they checked the timing, like when Buddha Singha predict Liu Yao was caught, was exactly the time when Shi Yao was caught. So this Emperor's son was just admire Buddha Singha like tremendously, and well, he thought, this Buddha Singha, he doesn't speak Chinese, and how can all these people listen to him? So at that time, to teach Buddhism wasn't easy at all. Like, it needs to beyond the difficulties of language, of culture, of, the geographic barriers. And so it was really amazing how they spread Buddhism. Actually, this Buddha Singha was an enlightened master, and he started cultivation and practice when he was only 9 years old. The Dharma power that he manifested was just like randomly shown. Like in the iron bowl, he has the lotus flower grown from the bowl, and he used the rouge and sesame oil to see whether Liu Yao was caught, and like all these. I know some other stories about him. Once, in his temple, there was a pagoda. One day, there was no wind, but on top of the pagoda, there are lots of bells, right? The upper bell was shaking without any wind, and none of the other bells were ringing. And when he heard it, he thought, oh no. At that time, he had many disciples and followers, and including a lot of ministers or, prince and princesses. And he said, oh no, there's a problem. There should be a national disaster. Well, and Christine said, yeah, he can see the sign. So very soon, we mentioned Shi Le, who was the emperor. He passed away very soon, and his son Shi Hong became the emperor. But after a few years, his other son Shi Hu actually became the emperor. And Shihu respect Buddha Singha very, very much because everybody knows that Buddha Singha is a very enlightened being. Even though they don't know who Buddha is, but they know Buddha Singha is is an enlightened being and very amazing. And on the Chinese New Year or some special occasions, they will always ask advices from Buddha Singha. And one night, Shihu asked Buddha Singha to come to the royal palace to have dinner. The emperor, and because they all are generals, they fight a lot of times too. And then Buddha Singha, all of a sudden, during the dinner, he said, no, there's a change. I felt Youzhou has a fire. When they were talking, they were in maybe Henan, Hebei, but Youzhou was close to Beijing or Baoding. And Buddha Singha said, in Youzhou, there's fire. And then the Emperor Shihu said, then what to do? And then Buddha Singha said, okay, I'll solve the problem. And so he used the wine that Shihu was drinking. And he sprayed the wine towards the direction of Youzhou, which was the north. And after a while, he said, okay, it should be fine. I've already distinguished the fire. And Shihu thought, well, this wine, alcohol, sometimes you use alcohol to light, to ignite a light. Well, you use this to distinguish the fire. And so he sent somebody to Youzhou, and the people come back and told them, they said, that day in Youzhou, there was really a big fire. The whole city, all the gates were on fire. Because at that time, there were a lot of war. Nobody can distinguish the fire. And when nobody can distinguish the fire, all of a sudden, in the sky, there was a cloud coming in, and then it starts to rain. And then the fire was distinguished. So the fire was very sudden, and then the rain was very sudden, and the rain also has a smell of alcohol. It was very strange. And so Shihu found it's just incredible. You're like hundreds of kilometers away. How can you know things happening there? And you could even spray the alcohol to distinguish the fire. Well, make sure you will not mimic him, okay? Only, those divine beings or, enlightened being can do that. Don't. If you haven't been trained or to that degree, you cannot do that. So he used alcohol to distinguish the fire. So Buddha Singha not only predicted and see the fire, and he used the Dharma power to spray the alcohol to distinguish the fire in Youzhou. This is not a normal human being can do. Well, so Shihu witnessed that. Don't think that the emperors at that time was very easy to fool. Yeah. You can maybe, if you want to do something to fool the emperor, maybe you can ignite the fire. You can set up the fire, but you cannot create the wind, and you cannot bring the rain, right? So it wasn't easy. And Buddha Singha also has a similar power like me. Many people has illnesses, especially the royal family. They have power, they have money, they all want to live long, right? At that time, people very few people can live as long as Buddha Singha. When he arrived Luoyang, he was already 79. In China, it would be very hard for you to find someone who already lived to 79. People who can live until 35 years old is like people who can live to 95 now. And he was already over 100 years old. Like for Chinese people, anybody who's over 100 years, it's like, they must be God or deities. This is really auspicious. No normal human beings can achieve that. And at the same time, he is very, he's not aged. He can still have Dharma power. He's very wise and very, very clear-minded, and he can spray some maybe water and then maybe the stomach pain will be gone, and people who cannot walk or ride on a horse, and then he can heal them. And so he has such Dharma power, and he could forecast, and he can. So wherever he goes, of course, he would be warmly welcomed. Even just to heal the people who are sick, especially the royal family, if he can cure them, everybody would admire him, right? And so Buddha Singha, that's why Buddha Singha built many, many temples. One of them was, some of them were in Hebei and Henan. In many famous mountains, they had many grottos. So in the big stone caves, they carved many statues, and 843, so close to 900 temples. And he has more than 10,000 disciples. And so he was the famous, like the national, wise person. And one day he thought, it's time for me to leave the human world. And so he wanted to say goodbye to the disciples. And when they heard about it, and so they all went to tell Shihu, the emperor. And then Shihu said, "Oh no, you don't go. We still need you." But he said, that's endless. You just need to be a good emperor. And Shihu said, "Give me some, guidance. If you have to go, tell me, give me some guidance." And so Buddha Singha said, just do good deeds, don't kill people without a reason, and you need to benefit all people, less taxes, and don't kill people, and always try to forgive people, and use compassion and virtue to rule the world, to care about people. And then the emperor said, okay, I remember that. And very soon, Buddha Singha went to Nirvana. At that time, he was 117 years old, because he was just so, he lived so long. I almost forgot how long it was. It was 117. He was 117 years old when he passed away. And And later in Hebei province in Xingtai area. Remember this name of the place? So there was a masterpiece in this Xingtai area. So this is just one of the Buddhist masters, grandmasters. Later, there were, some people may not know, and Grandmaster Dao An, and his disciple is Hui Yuan, and Hui Yuan became the founder of the Jingtu school, which is the Pure Land school. So it's actually like the grandson or disciple, the third generation of Buddha Singha. And the founder of Zen school, Dharma, took a vessel to come to China, and then he went to Guangdong and then to Nanjing, and he started to learn Chinese and teach Buddhism. And he talked to the emperors in the south of Chang'an. And there was a legend about he crossed the Yangtze River just with a straw. I don't know whether it was true, but that was the story about him, the legend about him. And so this Grandmaster Dharma also came to Shaolin Temple. So they all have some like mysteries. In the ancient times, there's not many recreational activities. These Buddhist grandmasters, they don't come here for fun. The whole, traveling from India to China, if there's a robbery or gangster or storm or something, they may lose their life. But what they want to do in China was to teach Buddhism. Every disciple, when they learned from Buddha, they all want to benefit all sentient beings, especially those who benefited from Buddhism. They all have this aspiration. And that's why, even though it's like thousands of kilometers, some people go on the land, but Grandmaster Dharma comes from the ocean. And, actually, he came from Indian Ocean. Even the Pacific Ocean sometimes have big storms. Indian Ocean have even stronger storms. There are also other masters coming to China. A lot of times they don't come just by himself. Usually has a leader who is a master, and they have a whole group of monks or masters coming. And all of those who come to China, they are all cultivated, and they have a big aspiration. And they also need some power, real power. Either they have a Dharma power to show something, or, they have a power to heal something. Because otherwise, especially at that time, if you just talk to them, nobody would listen. Especially in the case of Shile, you cannot just talk to him about Buddhist theories. You say too many theories, no use. Only when you show him the Dharma power, and then he would, only when he admires you, you can teach him something. And nowadays, it's the same. If you don't have real Dharma power, you can hardly convince other people, and they could, yeah. So those masters who came to China to teach Buddhism, first they will practice themselves. When they reach a certain level, they're enlightened, and then they're completely at ease. But they're so at ease, they can have everything they want, and all at that time, when they reach that state, they will have the common aspiration, which is the same as Buddha, to help all sentient beings. And at that time, some Buddha's disciples, maybe they will go to China. At that time, China. And some people might go to Afghanistan, and some might go to Kashmir, and some might go to even further place, maybe US. So at that time, all the Buddha's disciples, they all left India and go to a certain direction. At that time, they don't even have a map. They've never come to China, so they don't have a map of China. They just come with that aspiration. A lot of monks actually died halfway, and even the Tong monk in the journey to the west. Actually, a lot of the groups, maybe they were sick, or maybe they died of natural disaster, or so many actually died. And so they actually devote their whole life to help all sentient beings. And then they will go to the direction where they sense that they are needed. And so these masters, they have the aspiration, and then they sense that this is the direction they need to go to, and then they spread Buddhism. And some say that the master come from Kashmir or from India, because at that time in Middle East, Buddhism is already prevailing. Maybe you've already heard about the Bamyang Buddha. So those are the places that the Buddhism is already flourishing. And when Buddhism comes to China, the northern neighboring countries of China, they are already Buddhist countries. And so the emperors tend to accept their teachings. Well, now we've heard the amazing stories of Buddha Singha, and after we heard all these legends, we really look forward to, Master, you mentioned Xiaowen Emperor and monk Ba Tuo from India and Buddha Singha. That period of time were very the time when Buddhism was flourishing in the Northern Wei and Northern Qi time. And so there must be a lot of masterpieces left from that period of time. I hope, Grandmaster, could you introduce some of those masterpieces from that time? Master said, oh, sure. Let me start from story. In 1996, current time, 1996, just a few years ago, just about 20-something years, in Shandong province, in Qingzhou city, there was a school. They were trying to build a sports ground in a construction site. So they're trying to build the foundation, but then they found some stone statues because it's already 1996. It's now modern time, and so they reported to the archaeologists, and so they found many stone statues that were already damaged, many of them, at least 400 of them. I know a few of them also being stolen. These are actually being excavated from the construction site. When the police and the archaeologists come, some statues have already been stolen. Yeah, the local farmers, maybe they have already digged out something, they've already taken away. Because I have actually seen some of them. But these statues has been, they shown has been like damaged intentionally by some people. Some lost their arms, some lost their legs, and all together was left was 400 or more. But But I guess originally there might be more than 1,000. And now they are all in the Qingzhou Museum. And these Buddhist statues, are they from the same period of time? Ever since we have Buddhist statues in the Chinese history, the most famous Buddhist statues actually came from the Northern Wei and Shaowen Emperor time, about that period of time. The Sui dynasty and Tang dynasty. Most of them are stone statues. Very few of them are like bronze gilded. If it is an earthenware, it would probably, if it's buried, then it will be mixed with the earth. And those gilded bronze statues probably people would take away, but these ones are too big, so they haven't been stolen or taken away. And so they have the statues from statues before, like Tang Dynasty. The biggest ones are higher than 3 meters. Some of them are collected in many famous museums in the United States and Britain, and Chinese museums too. So from the pictures you can see, these are so vivid and exquisite, looks so alive. I actually have seen a lot of them with my own eyes. I have touched at least more than 10 statues with my own hands. When the Buddha statue is about real human size, you really want to kneel down in front of the statue. The feeling of compassion would touch you to even tears. And every Buddhist statue, if you look at their face, look at the screen. These statues, they're so serene and with the light smile, astonishing peace, and It just has the power. And Grandmaster says, when I saw those statues, especially the statues from Northern Qi and Northern Wei, I saw them in two places when I saw them, because they are stone statues. When I look at the face, I see the skin. It's just like the real person, and the texture of the skin is just so real. You couldn't believe that this is a stone statue. If they put some makeup on it, you would think that's real. And these stone statues pass to us this real feeling, and that, the compassionate eyes, and with wisdom, and with peace, and serenity, the smile. When you look at the statues, none of your afflictions will ever exist after you see this smile. All the stress will instantly disappear. Just that feeling. I'm not exaggerating. It's just like that. When we look at the screen, I can already feel its blessings. If we actually are standing in front of the statue, the blessings must be, much more. And Grandmaster said, you will be like shocked, and it's the stunning beauty, including this statue. This white marble ones, it looks so real. And you would feel. Okay, let's take a look. This white marble statue. All right, take a look. Enlarge it even more. This sculpture in front of me is actually not very large. It's just about 20 centimeters in height, and it's finely detailed. When it's even larger, the detail is unimaginable. There's nothing more magnificent than it is. This Buddha statue is carved from marble, from white marble. During that period, many stone sculptures of Buddha was discovered in Qingzhou area. Many people might ask, what's the story behind it? Why are these stones buried in Qingzhou? Around the Song Dynasty, around the place where they found these Buddhas, there was a very prominent Buddhist temple. It's called Longxing Temple. This temple was built in about 500 AD, 1500 years ago. And that is during the Northern Wei period, approximately during that time. We talked about Zhu Yuanzhang before, the first emperor of the Ming Dynasty. At the beginning, during the beginning of Ming Dynasty, this Longxing temple suddenly disappeared. But these Buddha statues was buried in the Song Dynasty. And that's about 1,000 years ago. So these Buddha statues was buried in the Song Dynasty. So people would ask, maybe some people damaged these Buddha statues in the Song Dynasty and buried it. But why? Why would they do it? At first, I had a lot of questions about it too. In the Song Dynasty, the abbot of the Longxing temple, when people revere a Buddha, everybody wants the Buddha statue that they revere is perfect, that it will bring them hope, a good wish for the future. This is a feeling of devotion. So at that time, the abbot of the Longxing temple saw many Buddha statues around them. In the Shandong province, there are many Buddhist temples with a lot of Buddha statues. He saw many statues that was damaged and they are just discarded everywhere, like a piece of broken stone. And he saw that this is not respectful of the Buddha statue. And because these Buddha statues are damaged, so nobody would revere these damaged Buddha statues. And when people wanted to want to pay respect to a Buddha statue, they would pay money to sculpt a perfect Buddha statue. And so the Longxing temple gathered many damaged Buddha statues from different periods. So the abbot of the Longxing temple had made a wish. He didn't want these damaged Buddha statues to lay around. It's as if his father is damaged and just laying on the ground. And at the time, people didn't have the mind to see these Buddha statues as art or antique, and they didn't want to make money from these Buddha statues. People use these Buddha statues for meditation, to pay respect. And so the abbot of the Longxing temple paid money to gather all these damaged Buddha statues together. And he held that ceremony and buried all these Buddha statues next to his temple. And he also built a pagoda on top of the burial site so that these damaged Buddha statues cannot be damaged any further. In the Song Dynasty, the emperors were very gentle, so they would not have damaged these Buddha statues. So it was probably the abbot from the temple that he made a wish to gather all these damaged Buddhas and safekeep them. This is true merit. if it wasn't for the abbot who collected these Buddha statues and protected them beneath the pagoda, maybe because these Buddha has already been damaged, so people might just use these fragments of stone Buddha statues as in architecture to build houses or even animal shelters. And he protected these Buddha statues so that we can see them today. We can see how beautiful, how magnificent they are. So in archaeological findings, these Buddha statues would say to have been protected in a cave. You would be able to see these statues from the northern Wei Anqi dynasty until Tang dynasty. Even in the Western culture, people regarded these Buddha statues as having the most magnificent smile of Asia. In many of the large art museums in the Western countries, they would regard these Northern Wei, Northern Qi dynasty Buddha sculptures as their jewel of their museum. Previously, Chinese sculptures were not as beautiful as those from Europe or India, but during the Northern Qi dynasty, they made it up. They made up, and it's as beautiful as the southeastern carvings. So these are amazing Buddhas.
所以再给大家讲一下，那我们最早的我们所知道的这些杂佛像，就是最大规模的杂佛像的这个
The earliest record of the Buddhist persecution is a long time ago. Let me tell you about the story. It's also back around the Northern Wei dynasty. It's called Taiwu's persecution of Buddhists. In the Taiwu period, the emperor is called Emperor Taiwu. In the 6th year, he used 6 years to destroy Buddhism. He had a very big goal. He wanted to build the largest, the strongest empire. Maybe that was his fate. When he became the empire, when he becomes the emperor, the minister that he trusted the most is very intelligent. So Emperor Taiwu seek many solutions from Prime Minister Cui. Prime Minister Cui is actually in contact with a very smart and powerful Taoist. The Taoist taught Prime Minister Cui. Although he is a prime minister, but he felt that he is a divinity of the in Taoism, that he has came to this mundane world. He saw that he was able to give ranks to secular people. At the same time, he is the prime minister of the Taiwu Empire. The prime minister, because he is the prime minister, so he passed on many information of Taoism to
接触
Taiwan Emperor.
道教的大师，
And so Taiwan
道教的
Emperor
大师
was
叫
also
做
connected to, made connection with one of the Taoist masters.
接触这位
I
道教
forgot
大
the
师
master's name.
接触了之后，发现这个大师也是
After they
法律
met,
智慧
the Taiwan Emperor
上至
realized
孔
that
孟
the Taoist
庄子
master
到
is
修
very
道无
knowledgeable.
所不及，
He
而且
is
是有
knowledgeable
道术有法
in
力。
many aspects, whether it's
对，实际
academics
上呢，
or
以他
Taoism,
所
and
展
he
示的
has
这
a
些
lot
智
of
慧能力
powers
也
too.
让这个太武皇帝呢，对他有深深的好感。
The Taiwan
有好感，
Taiwan
任何事
Emperor
情都
was
具备有一
drawn
个
to
理由
the Taoist master.
啊。那么他当感觉到皇帝对他
Everything
有好感
happened
的时
to a
候，
reason.
他同时又
When
向
the
皇帝进言
Taoist master
说佛教
felt
是外来
that
的文化，
the Emperor Taiwan liked him,
它不是我
he
们中国
told
的传统的
Taiwan
那个
Emperor
哲
that
学，那个阴
Buddhism
阳的
is
啊
a
养生的
foreign
啊，对整
culture.
个世界的
It's
分
not
析
like the
那么合
culture
乎
of
天
Taoism
道
that
术这个
it
概念的。
it corresponds
啊
to the law of
所以像过
nature.
去这些皇帝，他是有中国
In
哲
the
学文化
past,
这个概念，对不
Many
对？
Chinese
同
emperors
时呢，
have
他也
learned
对
Chinese
佛教
philosophy.
有相当的了解，就太武皇帝非
Taiwan
常的信
Emperor
佛。
also
但
was
是
a
接受
Buddhist
了这个
before.
道教大师之后，
However, after
他的
he
思想就
made
和变了。
connection with the Taoist
这
master,
了
he
里头还
changed.
有很多原因，
There are
一
many
个是道教
reasons
大师的
why
这
he
个
changed.
挑拨，
Well, one of the
你看是外面的
reasons
嘛，
was because of the Taoist
这
master's
些
words.
其
For
实不是最
example,
关键的理由。
Buddhism
更关键理由
is
是什
a
么？
foreign
当时
religion.
的中国佛
But
教
that's
的
not
发
what
展，
the most important
当时
reason.
中国佛教的发展，
One
对
of
于
the
当
most
时的国
important
家
reasons is
最
that
高统领者
the
来说，
development of
觉得是不
Buddhism
利
in
的，
China
甚至感觉是另外有一
was
种危险在里头。
was in
啊，
conflict
有一些
with
数据啊，
the rulers
大
of
家就
China,
明白了。
and
当时呢，
it
就
poses
是
some danger to the
呃
country.
是这个出家僧众，
At that
出家僧
time,
众的人数比例
the percentage
占
of
全国
monks
人数
of
总比
self-cultivators
例的1/15，
is as high as everyone in 15th. That is a very high percentage, right?
就15个人当中就有一个是出家人。
Every
他
one
从
person,
全国来统计啊，这个数量，我
so
个人也觉
one
得有点大。
person out of 15 is
那为
a
什么那个时候有这么
is a
多人出家
Buddhist
呢？
monk,
一个是皇
and
帝
they are
也推崇佛
self-cultivators.
教，
Why are
那个
there so
佛
many
像
monks
和
at
寺
that
院
time?
建的到处
Because
都是。
the
它整个
emperor
的
was a
文化氛
Buddhist
围
at
就
the
是如
time,
此。
and that's how
所以让
the country's
嗯
culture
这
is.
个
There are
有宗教
temples
特别容易倾
everywhere.
向和依赖的人呢，
And
也不
so
管3七21，我就出家
people
修行了。
who likes
有的是我不用干活，我就有人
religion,
供养，我
they
能吃
just
饭。
become a
还
monk,
有的说，
and they
因为你
would
不出家的话，
self-cultivate, and
出
they
家之
wouldn't
后
do
他
any
可以有很多
agricultural
优惠
work.
政策。
They
出家
would
之后
just
不用干活能吃
self-cultivate.
饭。第二个，
If you
出
were
了
a
家之
monk,
后
you
不
don't
用
need to
服
do
兵役，就
any
不用当兵，
agricultural
因为
work,
当
and
兵
you
不可
don't
能死啊，
need to become a
也不用当
soldier.
兵。还有，出家人的收入不
Also,
用上税。
If you are a monk and you have
当
any
时啊，
income, the income is not
对，
taxable.
那个时候出家人
So
在
during
家
that
里干的是
time,
啥呢？主要是种地嘛，是吧？那种地的话，你要向
at
政
that
府
time, if you
交
were
租税，
a a secular person, you
哎，
would
有时候它的政策嘛。
you would
所以
cultivate
当
your
有这么多的优惠政
land
策，
and you need
哎，
to pay
而
tax.
且这个出家
But
人
a
呢，
monk doesn't need
无论
to.
是谁都要恭敬，见出家人要恭
And
敬。
also,
所以出
everyone
了家
needs
之
to
后
be
好办事儿。
respectul of the
比如
monk.
家里头生
If
了7、8
you
个
were
孩子，有一个出
If
家，
a family
啊，
has 7 to
因
8
为他家有个
children
出家人，
and
在家里
one
有
of
庙，
them
谁
become
也
a
不能欺
monk,
负，
then
至
that
少有个地方能
family
说话，就
is
他们家是有身份
respected.
的。
People
你
would
现在的缅
feel
甸都是这
that
样嘛？
you need to be
说一个
respectful
男
of
子，
such a
青
person.
年男子没有出过家，
That was back
就觉得是一
thousands of
个
years ago back in China, but
好
it's
像不
still
好。
the same in Myanmar,
很受尊
even
重的
now.
时候，所以就是在当时的
So
那个
at
环
that
境下，
time,
可能就是出家人数众多，还有这些一些
because
特
there
殊
are
的
a
这
lot
个
of
有
monks,
我们讲
and
有偏向性的一些
because
政
there
策，
are
也会
many
让一些出家
biased
众反而会觉得
there are many biased
情形，所以才会向皇帝进言。
我觉得刚才我说的这个优惠政策的这个比例，其实对于最高的统治者
There are many biased bylaws toward the monks, and so there are a lot of people who become a monk, and even at that time, if the emperor needs a soldier, when they ask for people to join the army, people would instead become a monk.
他对佛教推崇达到了一个中国历史上的极致状态。
When
生动太多了。
in the reign of the Xiaowen emperor, he encouraged Buddhism, and there were
武帝
the amount of monks was at the highest in Chinese history.
这就是刺激了他。
And so
那位信道教
when it becomes the reign of Wu Di,
再接下来呢，
he was affected by the Taoist master, and also he sees
很多的
these
供养
reasons.
还有一些供养是土地。
Also,
金钱
people made a lot of
权力
offerings to
人事
the
关
monks,
人际关
whether
系
it's money or land,
还有呢
and
个别的
also human resources.
因为它的文化高低不一样，
And
过去
because the
读书人
monks,
少对不对？
um,
哎，那很多也没什么
they
教育
they had
那师
various
傅管理又不严格，有很多
levels of
人是过
education,
去
and some people
非常严
were
重
not well
私藏钱
cultivated,
财啊
and
甚至
they
私
would
藏妇女
break
啊等等这个
the
事儿还是有
precepts.
发生的。
And
所以，哎，这些事情也在
so
刺激
there
着
were also
政府
bad
对他
monks doing bad things, and it also changed how
对
the government
这个
viewed
在这种
Buddhism.
状态下
So
其实
during that
这个武帝呢
climate, during
之
that
前就做出了
environment,
一些就是缩减对佛教
Wu
政
Di
策的
has
一些
already made
缩减的小
some
手段，但是并不严厉。
some rules and
不是那么强
bylaws
硬
to
比如说往外发这个出家人度牒吧，开始减少，不要随
to
便发了。
restrict
还有就是说
Buddhism.
原来
They
要看
have
这个土地
already
如果不是确
restricted
实
the
属于你
number
的
of
寺庙的时
people
候
to
这
become
就划
monks.
为公有。
They have also restricted the
就开始
land
已
that
经
can
慢
be
慢在收
owned
紧这个
by
政
the
策。
temple. So they have
没有
already
大象
started
发
to
生。可
restricting
是有一件
the
事刺激
the
了这个
bylaws.
事情发生。
and
在
something
长安
happened
有一个
to
外来的
to
外
persuade
来人是指当时
to
这个是
persuade
新
the
疆和山东
balance.
地区来的，那个时候他
to
有
tip
很多
the
通
scale.
商啊，还是什么原因的哈，就
There
住在长安的。
was a
那但是这个人呢，
foreign
他是躲在
merchant
佛教寺庙的。
that
当时佛教寺庙
was
当中有
hidden
很多是
in
来自
a
于从中
Buddhist
东地区
temple.
来的出家
At
师
that
傅
time, there were many
他借这样的一个
self-cultivators
人际
who
关系的
came
熟悉，
to
可是做了一件
China from
这个历史的到底什么原因
from
造成这个现
Eastern
象，我不知道。
from the Middle East.
那这个人呢，突然间很神经病似的就带一群人造反，
And this person, this Middle Eastern foreigner who
带领很多人
was
这个人当中
hiding
有一
in the
部分是出
temple,
家人。
they started a rebellion.
那时候造反，皇帝谁造反造谁，就造皇帝的反。
They wanted to rebel
那
against the
皇帝一
emperor.
下立刻就有了，就是生气了嘛。
And the emperor
变成导
became
火索
very angry.
啊，
And
力
this
求扑
became
灭
the
他，
start.
领大军立刻就去征服。
So they
先
sent
征
the
服
armies
先
to
杀
the
人后
temple.
烧庙。
They killed all the
对，
rebels and
这里
also
圣人
burned
全部
down
杀
the
掉。
temple. They killed all the
这个
monks
庙推倒。
and burned
当然
down the
后来
temple.
他比较崇拜的这个道家的说，庙别砸，留着我们用啊，留着我们用。
And later on, the
不可以
Taoist
把和
master
尚砸了
told them
这
that
个庙的院儿归道教用。
the Taoist,
把这
they
僧
can
人
use the
立
same
刻以言
temple.
还俗去
So
结婚去
they
如
would
果不立刻还俗结婚，
destroy
杀掉
all the Buddha
让他
statues
成军
and leave the
这是老实
temples.
吧唧的从军
And
当军人。
They ordered all the monks to
顽
go
抗
home
顽
and
抗
get
的
married.
就我就
If they
是
don't want to go
不
home
还俗，我
or
也不
get
从军
married,
杀
they
掉
would go. They would be
这
forced
人就
to
毁了，
join
都
the
烂了
army and
想不
become
到
a
的
soldier.
那
And
这个这
if
些
you don't want to
佛
become a
具
soldier,
法
you
器
would be
佛像
killed
呢
right
就
away.
遭罪了。你看大前方大佛像拿大锤子砸了，
And so all
完了
the
扔了，
Buddha statues would be
他这个
damaged,
命
would
令
be
啊，国王的
broken
命令
with
一下就是
hammers.
全国的。
This is a countrywide order.
但是这里头呢又有故事了，幸亏这个时候这个国王是有点年龄的人，过去结婚早，对不对？他的王子
the
王子呢
emperor
就
was
是比较
was already
哎，这个
old
王子呢，
and he
就
had
当时
a
住的他
son.
的国君的老窝这个城市，现在来说就是大同，山西大同市
The son,
是他
the
的
prince
原有
lived
的
in
老窝
the
的城
city
市
of Datong.
啊。等于这个国王在外头打仗的
So
时候
the
下的命令，
emperor made an
就是
order
要
to
毁灭所有的寺院。
to destroy
杀掉
all the
所有的
Buddhist
僧侣。
temples and kill all the monks.
他要通过谁传呢？
But who did he
通过
give
回
this
到他的
orders
皇
through?
城，
This order
啊
has to
由
be given
皇城
through
由太子
the
再
prince
向全国进行去颁布。
because the emperor was
太子呢，
fighting in the
其实本来包括武宗
in
也
the
是信佛
battlefield.
的嘛。太子是对佛教
And
太
the
有好感
prince
的，
was
他
also a
一直就是
Buddhist.
他不忍心这样，
He didn't he
同
had
情，所以呢，他就晚几天
he
就
didn't
行
want
比
to
如晚
do
一个礼
this.
拜
He
就
had
行
pity for
但
it.
提前先用口头传说，赶快跑啊，
And so he
能
had
跑就跑，
sympathy, so he
能传就
delayed the
传去，
order
能传
and
就传了，
gave words
对，能
that
来的
if
赶快来
you
了。
if you are
啊，
able
要
to
不然
run,
就头就没
run.
了。
If you are able to
在
become
他这种
a
这个鼓动下呢，
common
在当
citizen,
时有位
become
大
one,
师，
or bury the
对，
Buddha
和这个皇
statues.
太子关系特别好，
At that time, there was a Buddhist master who had a good relationship with the prince.
谭耀，谭
The
耀大
Buddhist
师
master's
啊，
name
是个
is
很厉害
Tan
的。
Yao.
到了保护。
哎，谭道这位大师，谭耀这位大师，啊，他正好也是和皇太子也住在这个他的
Tan
皇城
Yao
里，
also lived
啊，
in the
就赶快
royal
告，
palace with
哎，
the prince.
你赶快跑吧。
So he got the news.
往哪跑呢？最后皇太子出了个主意，
The prince gave Tan Yao
你呢，
an idea.
跑到我们这个鲜卑族
You
所
can
认为的我们
run
祖宗的神山里
to
头，我们
to
随便都不
our
准进去，
divine mountain
说进去
where
就是不进去。
our
这
where
个神
our
山就叫五洲
um
山，
ethnic came
不
from.
能进，随便进
We
去会
would
被杀掉，
we are not
会被所有
allowed
的族人杀
to
掉。
go into the
对
mountain.
国王都
If
不
we
准，
go,
还
if
要有非常正当理由。
there has to
所
be
以
a reason,
那
otherwise even
等
the
于在
king can
王
be
子的
killed
帮助
if
下，
he goes into the
谭
mountain.
耀大师等
So
一
Tan Yao
一群
and
这个
some
佛教修行人
some
就
monks,
藏进了
with the help
这
of
个
the
五洲
prince,
山，也正是他
ran
这个
into the
鲜卑
Wuzhou
族的
mountain,
这
where
个神
the
山，
Xianbei ethnics
这个神
originated
山
from.
正是现在
And
那个太阳
this
现在雕
mountain
刻着很多
is
巨大
actually
佛像的
nowadays
那个
it
叫
is
城
part
市
of
碑，
Taiyuan, and it is
云冈
the
石窟。
Yungang
云
Buddha
冈石窟
cave.
正是属于这个大神山的
The
这
Yungang
个
Buddha
里面的
cave
重要的一个
is
部分。
is part of
哎，
this
所以就是
divine
这样。
mountain.
所以当时应该说至少有几十万名和尚
So at that
死
time
于
there
非命，
was
死于非命
over
啊，有几千名和尚
over
就化妆啊、逃
10,000
跑啊等等的
over
幸存
tens
下
of
来。
thousand monks
哎，
that
那个
died,
时候那个佛像
and only maybe
几
thousands of
乎
the
全
monks
被
were
砸毁，
able to be
几乎全被
stay
砸毁。
alive,
但
and
是
most
这
of
个
the Buddha statues
这个
are
灭佛运动持
destroyed.
续5、6年之后
So
啊，这
the
个太武帝就
the
去世了，
persecution of Buddhism
因为他受
went
命
on
就去世
for
了。
5 to 6
哎，
years,
等去
and
世
5,
之后
6 years
再
later,
上来的皇帝就温和了。
the Taiwu emperor passed away,
对对对，
and
这个继承这个皇帝叫什么来着？
5, 6 years later, after he died,
文成帝吧，哈。
Wen Cheng became the
这
emperor.
个皇帝上来之后就很温和，
Wen
反而
Cheng
他
is a
就
very gentle
他有
and
一种
mild emperor.
道歉式的，重新恢复佛教的这一切。啊，甚至是
It
待遇
was
也
as
是恢
if
复，
he felt sorry
而
for the
且又
Buddhists,
雕刻了
and
更
so
多的
he
这
um,
个佛
he
教的
allowed
这些造像，
Buddhism
尤
to
其是这个造
Buddhists
像
to
特
revive,
别
and
在这个
they started
谭耀
to
大师就想啊，
sculpt
你这次
to
灭佛，
carve Buddha
一定要
statues
把我们这
again.
个毁灭的这个佛教整个文物毁灭的太厉害了。谭耀大师非常智慧，
Tan Xiao,
我要
谭
把
耀
佛像雕在
Buddha
你们家
Master
祖宗的神山上，
was very
而且
smart.
这个佛像都
In
像你
this
祖宗皇帝
persecution of Buddhism,
我看你还敢
you
打
have destroyed all the Buddha statues. So he came up with an idea to
就
build
像是
a
他们托巴家
a,
族
a
的
colossal
祖皇帝的样
Buddha
子
statue
对
in
高鼻子深眼
in
窝
the
长得
ethnic
非常
mountain
狰狞
where
这个样
CiBeiYin
子
ethnic
还有这个双向的
originated from.
就是
And
他
also,
老皇帝的老爷爷
when they
老奶
carved
奶
the
的像你
Buddha,
敢吗你敢
the
砸吗
Buddha
但是
statue
是佛
looked
像的
like
样
a
子
CiBeiYin
就不能
ethnic.
砸了吧
And so,
那你
how
再砸砸
dare
看
you
你
to
砸你祖宗
destroy
吗
this Buddha?
这是不能砸了
It's as
而
if
且
you
雕到他
are
的神山上去
destroying the sculpture
这
of
神
your
山他不能随便
ancestors.
碰的
And
这
because
看看
this
绝吧
Buddha is
这样
carved
才得以保
in
留
the
到现在
divine
啊
mountain of the
是不是也是很
CiBeiYin
智慧
ethnic.
吧因为也是
So
正是这一次的灭
this
佛
Buddha statue
才
was
让
able to be preserved until today.
谭耀大师想方设法将佛像变成不容易
And
腐坏的
Because
这
of
样的
this
材质
persecution
就是
of
用
the
大山
Buddhism, Tan Yao
为材
masters
质
thought about
所以花
a
岗
new
岩
way
用
to
花岗岩为材
to
质
build
来
Buddha
雕大佛
statue so that it cannot easily be
这
destroyed.
样子
So they
那么
used
就
the
之后才有
entire
了
mountain to
后来的
sculpt the
若
Buddha
干的石窟
statue.
包括云门石窟
And so
再才
after
有
that,
了
there are many
这
colossal
个
Buddha
现在
statues
河北
around
省
China.
刚才讲到的啊
邢台吗？
邢台
There is also
附近
a
的
Xing
这个
Tai
南响
giant
堂山北
Buddha.
响堂山这个石窟雕刻群，
是是是。
And there is a whole bunch of caves
所以
in
那个雕刻
Xiangtang
群
Shan.
对里头有更多位大师的
In the
付出的
Xiangtang
这个
mountain,
心血哈，
there are many,
那
many
个
more
佛造像
masters
非常的精美。
who made
所以那个雕刻群
these beautiful Buddha
啊
statues
南北响堂
possible.
山这个距离哈，距离这个邢台现在开车1个半小时就到了。
Xiangtang Mountain is about 1.5 hour drive from Xingtai.
是。
哎，有些网友等疫情过去之后哈，哎，可以去
Maybe
参访
after
一
the
下
pandemic, you could
Eh.
go visit these places.
对，所以在那里留了很多的经典的作品。
So there are
像河南
many,
龙门石窟
many
啊，还有
sculptures
河北曲
remained.
阳县
The
啊，还有正
Longmen,
定县
the Longmen
啊这
Buddha
些大
cave,
寺
and
这
there
个
are
佛
many
佛
large
佛造像特
temples
别多。
with
像
many
曲阳县
magnificent
像
Buddha
像我们这
sculptures.
尊汉白玉的这种佛造像，
Like this
就有可
white
能是河北
marble
曲阳县地区的那个
Buddha
大理石材雕
statues,
刻的
it could have came from the Quyang
这
County
样洁白的这个白玉佛。
with such pure
所以从
white
那个时期
Buddha
在西北
stone.
魏时期1700年前就开始雕刻，
So
像这一尊是
in
1500
the
年前。
this statue is about
就是
1500 years ago
其实
in
北
the
魏早北
northern
魏比较早，北齐
northern
后
Qi
一点
dynasty.
北齐再过了一些年就到了隋。
After
对
the
是这样
Bei
的
Qi
时空
dynasty, it is the Sui and Tang
这
dynasty.
一段历史，好令人唏嘘啊！就是
This is this history is
对佛弟子来说，真的是浩劫一般的。
it's like a disaster to Buddhists. It's
中国历史上
very
灭佛的有几位大
grieving.
皇帝灭佛哈，就是
There
刚才
are
讲到的
several
这个北魏
emperors
时期的
who
是
prosecuted
太武帝灭
Buddhism.
佛
For
再接下
example,
来
there
呢
was
就
a
是
Taiwu
北周
emperor,
武帝灭佛
and also
北
there
周
was
武帝灭佛
um,
再接下来就是唐武宗
Northern
灭
Zhou
佛你看都
dynasty
是
Emperor Wu
他这个
Di,
帝王的名字
and
叫武
also
很奇
Tang
怪吧
dynasty Emperor Wu Di, and
就是三
all
武
of
一宗
these
后来
emperors,
就是
their
后
name
周时期
contains
的
the
世
word
宗灭佛
Wu, which means
前头这个帝都
fight.
带个武字，很奇怪吧？那
That's
佛呢
very
是倡导
interesting,
呢
right? But
爱
what about Buddhism?
慈悲
Buddhism
和平，
spreads
这个武呢
compassion and peace. But what is
杀戮
Wu?
流
Wu
血
means
咬人命
kill, means
所以就是这
blood.
个武字也起错了。哎，你看到
So
宋
the
朝
emperors use a
就是
wrong
唐朝
name. In the
这个
Tang dynasty,
我们的女主
武则天
武则天，
there was a
武则天
female
之后
emperor.
的
Her name
两
is
三代
Wu
之后的
Zetian.
皇帝，应
2
该
to
是
3
唐武宗吧
emperors after
唐武宗灭佛
Wu Zetian's
就
reign,
为什么
there
当
was
时的
another
后来
emperor,
这个西
Tan
安法
Wu
门
Zong,
寺那个地宫佛之
He
父舍利
also
出土，是不是啊？
prosecuted
就是来自于
Buddhism.
那时候唐武宗的灭佛，就是
And
李世民的后人出来，很神秘
because
的
Tan Wu emperor prosecuted
对
Buddhism, that's why they
64次大战
buried the Sakyamuni Buddha's
在请教您
finger
在
relic.
这样的历史时空下哈，我们
Master, under such a time period, if we look at 1700 years ago, when we look at these sculptures from the Northern Wei and Northern Qi dynasty, is there any characteristics of these Buddha statues? Yes, there are. Nothing comes from, everything comes for a reason. There is the environment for it to become the way it is. Previously, I talked about how the sculpture would imitate the people of the time. However, in the Northern Wei dynasty, the Buddha sculptures, the Buddha sculptures' faces usually have large eyes, large ear, large nose, and their face is a little bit elongated and very thin, and their body shows a muscular contour. And the Buddha sculpture of that time, their face doesn't look like the Han ethnic. It feels that the face are like people who are from the Indian or Pakistan region. Let's look at a few more photos. Can you enlarge the face? Look at this Bodhisattva. Look at its elongated eyes and large nose. There's another characteristic. There is a difference. There are two categories, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There are some characteristic for Buddha statues. For example, their face looked like an Indian person. And also, on top of their head is a hairband, the Ushnisha. In the Northern Wei dynasty, this Ushnina feels like an large apple. And there are tiny hair curls. But later on in time, the hairband, the Ushnisha becomes smaller. The Ushnisha is not that prominent anymore, and the entire head would feel as if one piece, just like this one in front of me. The Ushnina feels like one piece with the rest of the head. Can you see it? The Ushnina doesn't look like an additional apple placed on the head anymore. And when you look at the hair, do you remember what period it is from? It's from the Northern Qi period. The hairstyle that looks like an additional apple is placed on top of the head is from the Northern Wei period. But what about later on into the Yuan dynasty? The hairband is not that prominent anymore. So look at our white marble Buddha. Look at her hair. the head is in one piece, and that's why it tells us that it's a characteristic of the Northern Qi dynasty. And if you look at the face, does it have a large nose anymore? Does it have the characteristic of the Indian person? The face is much rounder. And this is the type of fortunate face that Chinese people talks about. It's not like the Europeans or the Indians' face. So there is a change in the facial features. And also, the body contour also changed. In the Northern Wei dynasty, the body look at this picture. This is a later Northern Wei dynasty sculpture. Look at the body's characteristics. The physique is slender. You can feel the curves in the body. You can see the beauty in the curls. It starts to become more naturalistic. Although it's a sculpture of a divine being, but it still shows naturalistic features with very lightweight fabric robes and ornaments and jewels. The body shows slender, relaxed shoulders. It's elegant and graceful. And this is the Buddha, a statue of a Bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas are usually seen as females in the Chinese culture. And so this Bodhisattva, her body is slender, and the thin fabric shows the contour of the body. This is a standing Bodhisattva with a back panel. Let's enlarge it. Look at the top of the head. Looks like an additional apple on top of the head, right? In the earlier Northern Wei dynasty, they liked to make Buddha with a back panel, so that not only does it make the Buddha statue look more divine, it also protects the Buddha. It's a Buddha statue and a stele together. The figure and the stele is connected. In the Northern Qi dynasty, usually the Buddha is an individual statue, and there are very few back panels. This is from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is Buddha Dapankara. It is 322 centimeters high. Usually, in a normal apartment, your ceiling height might be 3 meters tall. And this Buddha statue has carvings both in the front and the back. This is a back. In the front is the Buddha Dapankara, and on the back,
不是，它交指是动作哈，交指佛像是动作，交指当中也有佛也有菩萨，这个是， 弥勒佛。
The back of the
弥勒佛我们
statue
就是未来。
actually is a carving of Maitreya
这是
Buddha.
这个造像碑的前后面都有，
So both
全部
on
是
the
满工雕刻。
the stele's front and the back are carved. Even on the side of the stele, it's carved.
是，这非常了不起。这个鼻子这儿砸掉一块儿，
It's a
不知
pity
是
that
破
the
坏时砸
nose
的，
is
还是运
damaged.
输的时候砸的。就
We don't know if it was damaged intentionally or
你像这尊像
unintentionally during
离现
shipping.
在1600年，
This stele is about 1600 years old, and
对，
it's
这
huge.
这个
It's
真是
over 3 meters
运
tall.
输是难于上青天呐。
Even
运输
ship
是最
it
难
would make
啊
shipping
这
very
个保
difficult.
管的话，就在那雕了，就放那儿不动还可以。
If you carved
个
it
运输
and
是
just
不容易
leave it sitting there, it would be easy. But if you move it, it would be very
那
difficult.
再接下来看一看北齐的这
Next,
些
let's
佛
look
像
at
特征
a
还有
statue
看
from the
相
Northern Qi dynasty.
这一尊是北齐的鎏
This
金的
is
灰
a
石佛像
gilded gray stone
美
figure
国佳
of
士得
a
2019
Buddha.
年拍
It
卖
was
过
auctioned
高
by
70公分
Christie's New York in
成交价
2019.
145
It
万
is 70 centimeters tall and
这
it was
也是
sold for a
对
a
这种佛
million
像艺术的一
and
种认同
455,000 US dollars.
它这个鎏金是鎏在这个石雕佛像上的，你再一看，
This is a stone
鎏
Buddha
金的，
with gilt.
实际上是那个
With
时候
one look, you would feel that it could be a gilt bronze. However, it's actually gilt
这个
gilt
高
on
是70
stone,
公分
and it's only 70
70
centimeters tall.
对，这个售价我觉得也是值了。
I
因
think
为
the auction
跨越了多
price
少年了？
shows
跨越
its
这超越了
its
1500
value,
年
reflects its
啊，
value.
一直在供
This
奉中。
statue is
那我觉
over
得这个收藏者
1500 years old, and I think whoever
对，作为一个生意稍微
is
大一点的人
reverencing this
因为你
Buddha
顺利
statue is very
挣到
fortunate.
100多万美金，那就很容易佛给你带来的。
It will be
是吧？
very easy
这个
for you
是
to earn more money once
看就
you are
不过了。
blessed by this Buddha. So I don't think
这
this
尊佛像的脸就像
price
刚才我们所
is
讲到的
too
那
over.
样的柔和
Look at the
安详
face of this Buddha statue.
带
It
着
is very
微微的
gentle,
慈悲的微
very
笑
serene,
它
with
这
a
里有很
slight
多其实有很多
smile.
特点
There are
啊
many
首先一个到了这个
characteristics
时期哈，
on this
它这个
Buddha
脸
statue.
呢更
At
是
this time,
是中国
at this
化
period,
它的脸
the
就不是
face
外国人
is more
中
of
国
a
化
Chinese person.
所以也像我们那个相学中的，我说
And
这
so
种这
it
个
follows the
福气很
Chinese
像
um,
福气圆满
aesthetics
慈
of
悲
a
智慧
fortunate
都在这个
and
相上
wise
是
and
写
compassionate
就是
person.
大福气大
It's
富贵的人
written
就这
in
样
its
啊
face that a wealthy and
那么
fortunate
还有呢，
person
它
would
这个
look
雕
like
刻这个
this.
特点，这个衣服哈，
And also
衣
look
服
at
和
the
身材
clothing that
这个里头这个时期有相当一部分佛像流行是有点比较贴身的，
during
贴
this
身
time
的衣服
there
的
are
感
a
觉
lot of carvings
也
with
叫做袍
clothing
衣之
that
服
are
这种感觉其实就是就像穿那个薄衣服哈，正好下雨了，
that
那个衣
clings
服
to
就
the
粘在身
contour
上
of
了
the
所以说
body.
身材就
There
非
is
常
a
好
就不要紧
there's a Chinese word
所以那个
calls
时候
it 曹衣出
因为
水.
中国的
It
这
feels
个
as if
应该像
um,
那过去这传统礼数礼仪，
it
是早
feels
期的
as
倡导
if
但
um,
是遵循普及
the
是越来越
lightweight
多
fabric is
甚至
rising
是
out
越
of
来估计
water.
越来越严重的时候，反而到了清朝就越严重。
At this period,
到了
it's
明
there is
朝
actually
宋
not a
到
lot
了
of
明朝和
rules
清朝的时候，
in
就
the
有
Chinese
国改
society.
本
However,
来是
later
比较
on
正
in
常
the
的了，
Qing
非把古
dynasty,
时候
there are
国办之
more
后
rules.
绑起来，
For example, in the Qing dynasty,
所以你那个
it's
脚还不如一个
restricted.
男人拳头大，你怎么
The
跑啊？怎么
women's
干活
feet
啊？
are
走路都不行。
restricted,
现
and
在你们很多大姑娘都
it's
那个大
made
脚丫子
very
比我这脚
small,
还都大，
and
我
it
都看着
made
像
it
特
it
别
made it very
你都不
difficult
习
for
惯了。
women to walk or to
所以
do
古
any
代我看
work.
小脚太多了，就是，哎，对，所以他这种包括这个佛像的这个装扮这个样子哈，这个艺术呢，
So
对那个时候的
in the
不是
Northern Qi
那个时候
dynasty,
中国人对于人的穿着打扮的时候，还是本身穿衣服，还是
people
喜欢
are
人体美，
people
人
are
体美学。
when
所
people
以在那
wear
个时候，包
clothes,
括
they
敬重
would
神佛的时候， 你看
appreciate the
它是
aesthetic
彰显的
of
不是衣服的美，而是彰显的是
contour
人体美，对
beauty.
吧？
And you can
潮
see,
衣出水，这也是一个
so 潮衣
很
出
是一
水，
种风格的这
it
个
is a style of
对，你
clothing.
看现在这种感觉，如果她是个女的话，你觉得像个旗袍
Imagine
了
if this
薄薄
is
的旗袍
a
是吧？这
lady,
身材完
the
全可以
clothing feels
衬
like
托出来
a 旗袍,
对
right?
这个潮一出水，还有的时候它
It
这个线
outlines the
衣
body
服上这个线
contour.
啊，用
And
什么来表示衣服呢？叫阴刻线，
and
就是在这个
the
刻线呀
阴刻线
look
就这
at
个石头的
these
这个皮肤吧
engraved
哈，就拿这
lines.
个小凿子
They
慢慢这么
use
凿下去
these
的一条线，
engraved
这就是阴刻
lines
线
to
这
represent
个石像
clothing.
的这个肤质感好
Look at
真的
this
像人的皮肤的那种肤
Buddha's
质感一
我
样。
告诉你，你这是在
Buddha's
图片
uh,
你一看真
statue.
的那个石头佛像的时候，你就是只有
The feel
感动
of
太
the
太
stone
神秘了。
太传神
really
了
replicates the
生
feel
命
of
形式的这
skin.
种
It
传递给
even
我们的这种感觉
it gives us a connection.
呀真是肃然起敬。
对，所以在古代时期，它每一个时代
So
就是它这种特征感
in
哈
each
它就是这样子。
in each historical period, the
你看佛
Buddha
现在落地了
statues
吧
would
变成中国
feel
人了吧
will look
对
different.
师傅，那我们也很有幸哈，后来得知是在我们禅堂，一真是
Master,
在新北禅堂
We are very
台湾
fortunate
台湾的新
in
北禅堂，还有一间
Taipei's
是在
CiBeiYin
马来西
Center
亚
and also
哎将来
in
禅堂
Malaysia's
也分别
Cheras
供奉
Center.
了
There are
特别想
there
请
are
师傅来
two
大概的讲解一下，给我们
antique
介绍一
Buddha
下好吗
statues.
请师傅
Would Master tell us about these two Buddha statues?
我都不知道怎么讲解了。
I
因为
don't
我
know
们把这
where
个时
to
期的
start
佛像
from
特征已经给大家讲了。
because we have already
大家
talked
看
about the
在马来
characteristics
西亚
of
交代
these
禅堂这一尊哈
the Buddha
稍
statue
微
in this
头部
time.
稍微放大一
If you
点
look at this
我们
one
先辨一
in
下
our
年代
Malaysian center, let's interpret the age first.
你看那个头是什么样的？
Look at the top of the head.
大包头吧。哎，
The
这
head
就是
is one piece,
这
right?
个北齐
So
到了北
it's
齐
a characteristic of the Northern Qi
那这
period.
个它这个衣服呢，
And the
这个衣服
clothing,
呢，看看衣服哈，
look at the
看看有没
clothing.
有一点点看他所说潮衣出水的感
Does
觉
it feel
呢？
like
是有
the
的。
Cao Yi
啊
Chu Shui
还是
character
刚
that we
才的
just
这个
talked
身材
about?
所以它
It
和后来
outlines
的
the
佛像
contour of
尤
the
其到
body.
宋代以后的佛像就偏身体圆润
This
和肥
character
胖一点
is completely different
是吧？
from
这样
the
说胖
Buddha
对佛像
statues
显得
that
不
you
恭
would
敬
see in
但
the
从
Song
身材感
dynasty.
确实是如此的变化。
In the Song
所
dynasty,
以
the
在
body
这个
would be rounder.
北齐北魏时期，这个
In
佛
the
像是
Northern
有
Qi and
就是
Northern
相
Wei
对比较
period,
年轻
the
身材
Buddha's
比较
bodies
美
are
好的这
usually
样的身材感。
feels more useful
对。
and it's
还
more
有这个衣服
slender.
呢，这个时候的衣服其实
And
也
the
汉化
clothing, the clothing is
和
actually
那个
already
时期北齐
shows
这
a
个大时期
characteristic
的
of
中
Chinese
国那
clothing.
些就是王公贵族
It's the
那些学
clothing
士
that
穿的
Chinese
宽衣
scholars
大
and
袍
Chinese royalties
哎
would wear.
相吻合，
It's
宽衣大
very
袖
loose robes
那些儒家
with
绅士穿的这种大大衣服
Confucius
哎
scholars
非常类似
and
哎，
wise scholars. They will wear this type of very loose
对
robes.
而且它这个衣服呢，你看哈，
And
这
also
个
when
衣
you
服
look
并
at
没
the
有袒露右
clothing,
肩，没有袒
the
露右
robe
肩，这
covers
两个肩膀都盖着的。
both
这也
shoulders.
在这个佛教的造像之中叫通肩式，
And this
这个
is
通达的
a
通肩
Tongjian
式
style of
通肩式的
Buddha's
这个衣服
clothing carving.
你看这个衣褶非常的美，
Look at the
非常的
folds
柔美。
of the clothing.
所以
It
在
is
过去
very
有这个鎏金，
soft and
还
beautiful.
有涂
It
色。
use
所以这个
there's you
佛
can
像
see
很
some
古早了
remains
但
of
是
the
它的
gilt
金
and some
还能
color
看到
pigments as
还有
well.
局部能看到一点点颜
You
色
can also
啊
see some
对
color
这
pigments
手艺搞得
on
很美。
some parts of the Buddha's
所以我
body.
们台湾的网友们，还有我们马来西亚的网友们就很有福了，很有缘了。
Our
是吧很有福
practitioners
气了
in
是
不用就是
if you're
千里
watching
迢
it
迢其实
in
在
Malaysia
美
and
国
Taiwan,
就
you are
能够
very
看到
fortunate.
只
You
是
don't need to
本
go
地
anywhere
看
else.
到
You can just
千年古
go
佛
to our
我们
center
有
to
缘
see
请
these
到
antique
这个
Buddhas.
不但是请到这个古佛，而且它是相对是比较完整的。
We had
相
a
对
chance
比较完整
to
的它也并
for
不是
these
说
Buddhas
这
to
个
come
古
to
佛
come to
是
us,
每一个古
and
佛
they
都
are
被砸掉了，
and they are in one piece. Not all Buddhas are damaged. And some of the Buddhas, if they were already hidden in a cave, it was preserved, and every official executed all the government's orders to a different degree. If the government official were a Buddhist, and they probably didn't go try to find all the Buddha statues. And so we were able to receive one that is almost completely intact. And the other one had damage on the fingers. So this Bodhisattva you see is in the CiBeiYin Center. After the pandemic, our friends in Taiwan and Malaysia can go to the center to revere these 1,000-year-old Buddha statues. And these compassionate Buddha statues will use its energy to bless you and protect you. All right, so both of those two Buddha statues that you have seen are from the Northern Wei or Qi period. And if you have a chance to revere this Buddha, may the Buddha protect you. Both of these have been in this world for over 1,500 years, so its blessing power is infinite. These Buddhas are very inspirational, and it has helped many people before. If anyone who revere it, the Buddha will bless him. Master, with your explanation, we have learned these knowledge. Previously, when we go visit museums, for example, the Metropolitan Museum of Art or the British Museum, there are many Asian arts, many Buddha statues, and they are the jewels of the museum. And with Master's explanation, we start to learn to appreciate these the Buddha sculpture art, and to learn to appreciate these sculptures. And we are Buddhism cultivators ourselves. We have more reverence in our mind and spirit. After the pandemic, if we have another chance to go to visit these museums, we have a better idea how to appreciate these artistic treasures from our ancestors. I have a chance to come across one of a fragment of a back panel of a stele. This is the stele of a Buddha statue, and this is one of the top corners. When I saw this piece, my head was suddenly tingling. My hands are tingling, as if I was electrocuted. My body was tingling. My skull seems to be vibrating. It's very special. So when I saw it, I talked to the owner to see if he would pass it on to me. And we talked about it for over 4 or 5 weeks, for over a month. He saw how sincere and reverent I was. And this was passed on in his family for many generations. He had this piece in his family for over 40 years. And it is one of the sculptures that he revered on his altar. His grandma has already passed away, and his grandma told him that the celestial beings always talk to her. And her grandma, when he revered the Buddha, she would talk to the celestial beings, and the celestial beings are as vivid as a true person. And then the grandma would know the solution to her troubles, and she would tell it to her family. And these are the inspirations from the Buddha. And this is just a fragment of the stele. There used to be a large Buddha in front of it. If you look at the stele, can you see the top? Do you see the canopy? What is this? What is this architecture? Does anyone know the name? This is actually when, if you see an abbot or a master who goes outside to do some ceremony, you will see their disciples holding a canopy over them. And also, historically, when an emperor would walk out on the street, there would be canopy covering his head, protecting the emperor from sun or rain. So this is like a canopy. It was said that when the Buddha was alive,
去朝大佛山的时候，说你头顶上的一直顶着一块云，那块云也叫华盖。
That when a person who is full of merit, when they decide to do some big, and on their way, on top of their head, there would be a piece of cloud accompanying them, and that is a celestial canopy. In this sculpture, you see two celestials that are holding on to this celestial canopy in the sky. And this canopy is used to represent auspiciousness. And this was not made by the Buddha itself, but it was given by the heaven to protect the Buddha, to protect the wise elders. Many people might ask, what are these celestial people? You can imagine them as goddesses. If you have, and they would be protecting you. There are many celestial beings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 celestial beings. This is a rare find. And also, there are many flame-like engravings. Over 1700 years old. This is very unique and rare. Imagine that this is only a fragment of the stele's back panel. Can you imagine the entire stele, the entire sculpture, how magnificent it would be? I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate to even see this fragment of the stele. Under that time, that period, some of the sculptures were damaged, and they are now, some of them are recovered. As a Buddhist, that we see these sculptures today, it's a real treasure to us. When you see these sculptures, I realize that it's across 1,000 years to come to us. Today, we are talking about Buddhist sculptures from the Northern Qi and Northern Wei dynasty. and get to know that history a little bit. I hope that you have a little bit more understanding, knowledge of Buddha statues. Thank you, Master. We've learned culture and art, and also a piece of Buddhism history. I'm very touched. The Buddha sculpture changes throughout time. If we have time, we'll continue to talk about different Buddha sculptures in different time periods. And even in different countries, it's all carved differently. That's all we'll talk about Buddha statues in this live session.
尤其是在我们北美慈悲音上放了一些和这个完全不同的收藏品由物理来说一说。
There's something completely different that I want to talk to you. Currently, in the North American CiBeiYin website, because we have selected very graceful pieces in time of Chinese New Year. And because of Chinese New Year, many people likes ornaments that shows fortune. In front of me, there are some very interesting pieces. And I might not know these very well, but let me talk to you about these. This is a very interesting piece of china. Okay, I'll just hold a smaller one. This is a milk jar, a very small milk jar. Look at the green, the blue. Master talked about this blue before. In all of our colors, the most beautiful blue is royal blue. And on top of this blue, there are gilt paintings. And there is a sign on the bottom. It is a very famous German maker. Royal Porcelain is its brand. It's a German china maker. There are some photos already available on CiBeiYin.com. There is a set. I have to tell you about this. This is a very small coffee cup. In addition to the royal blue on the outside, on the inside of the coffee cup, it's also gilded. The inner wall is painted with 22 karat gold, and it's painted by hand. This set is about 60 to 70 years. So it's a vintage set. And these are some of the treasures that Master had. And during Chinese New Year, we hope that you can bring this gold and fortune home. Okay, there's another special one. It's very gold. This is a piece of china too. Look at the gold here. If I don't show you, you probably feel that this is a piece of golden jar, right? It looks like a trophy. It actually has a porcelain base with a very thick layer of gilt. This is from United States. Its brand is called Picard. And what's special about it?
之前哈，专为美国白宫，
Picard is
美
a
国各大使馆
is
以及世界级名人
made
专供的
many
陶瓷。
porcelain for
然
the
后
White
它都
House
是
and
就是
for many
它的特点
embassies
都
in
是
the
在
U.S.
瓷器上在镀金，就是镀
And
金这样，而且
It would
你看一下它
it's
鎏金
their
的这个厚度
characteristic to
特别的厚，
gild
所以它
the
特别的精，
porcelain.
就是这
And
个叫
if
什
you
么
take a
金
look,
色
you can
特别
see
的
how
好
thick
啊
the gilding
现在
is.
在师傅那个煮的那个桌子上
In
也
front
有
of
两
Master,
只，
there are
对，
two
你看
pieces.
特别的金灿
对
灿，
就像黄金铸造的。
对。
It looks
好，
as
所以
if
这
it's
个品
been
牌也
made
是
by
要跟
gold.
大家介绍一下，叫 Picard。
So
是
these
这
are
个非
some
常著名
pieces
的
from
美国的
Picard.
就是品牌。那它基本上就像我们用中国人说哈，就是特供的了。就是
And
对
they
国家级
specially
特供
made
特供
these
级的这样的一
porcelain
个品牌了。
for
你
the
们说的
White
那个
House
水晶
and
杯
for
给
the
大家说一下。
embassies.
这个水晶
你
杯，
看看多漂亮！
我都
Let's look at
我都不能
this
用一个手去捧它哈，因
crystal
为它很重。
ornament.
厚。那这个水晶杯呢？它的品牌是叫 Waterford， 它是一个很
This is
知名
a
的
crystal
很著名的爱尔
wine
兰
glass
品牌。
that is
你看它
made
金
by
碧辉煌，不能
Irish
说
crystal
金碧辉煌，就是
maker
它的光泽感是
Waterford.
不是像彩色的了？
对，
Look
它
at
是透明
the
的。
非常灿
look
烂。
at the
对，你看
color.
现在
Look
在
at the
灯光
light
下
refraction
反而是映
underneath
出
the
的是
light.
五彩的彩色，
You
这
can
种感
see
觉。
colors
对，它的那
of
个
the
壁
rainbow.
很厚，
It's
而且它的
very
雕
thick
刻，它的那个
and heavy.
就是水晶的这个雕刻工艺也是很繁复的，
It's
它是一
hand
大块
cut
水晶挖出来的。
crystal.
对，很精致、很精致的
对
这样的一个
It's
很
very
大的杯，而且
delicately
它体积
made
很大哦。本来
and
我们
it's
如果想，
huge.
哎，如果不是说那个照片里看看，以为就是一个酒杯而已，
If you
或者
look
是
at
什么
it
样。
on a
但是我
picture,
给
it
大家竖
feels
起来
like
看，
just
这
a
是我
small
的手
wine
机，
glass. But let me
可以
show
看
you
到，
how big
哎，
it
看
is.
得到
This
吗？
is my
比
cell
我的
phone.
手机还要高，
It's even
这么
larger
大
than
一个
my
大
cell
石头，
phone.
所以这么大一块水晶，真的是很顶级的
It's a
这样的一
very
个水
large
晶的
piece of
爱尔兰的 水晶很
glass,
著名
对，
crystal
高脚杯
就
glass.
这些东西的这个收藏啊，其实我都不是特别有心的。可是当有人碰
These
上了，
Pieces
真
came
是
to
好
me
美啊就是这个西洋式的很
incidentally,
多东西，我们并不是都是中国的美，
and it's
很多
very
西洋的精
beautiful.
美的东西，
I
你
don't just
偶尔能
appreciate
看到的时
Asian
候，
art, but
是吧
also
价钱也不是特别
Western
高
art
的时
too.
候，
And
顺
when
便
these
清楚。
when
而且它
I
的
ran
器
into
型
these and when they're
很
not
漂
very
亮，
expensive,
很特别，它也不
I
是直
would
拉拉的，它还
gather
有
it.
就是器型有
And
收口，
this one
然
is
后
very
还
special
有一个这样
because
的
there
腰身
are
的这样一圈，
you can see the
然后再高
waistline.
脚
It's
下
not
是
straight
长
up
口
and down,
对，
and you
我
can
在
see
我
the
看
tall
哈
feet.
其实也都可以当花瓶。
是，
其实
I
它也
feel
可
that
以
you can
喝什么
actually
葡萄
use
酒
it like
啊
a
什么之类的，是
although
吧？
it's a
冷
wine
饮
glass,
啊，
but you could also
其实
use
当
it
个小花
as
瓶
a
也非常
flower
美。
很
vase.
美很美。
It would be very, very beautiful.
那这它前面呢
In
是一个
front of
水
it,
晶碗，
there is a
这个水晶碗也是
a
看它的
crystal
刻
bowl.
花刚才我们
Look
讲
at
的这个
the
镜头
flower.
嗯
Look at the pattern.
非常漂亮。总的来说呢，我的
It's
总结就是
beautiful.
这个西洋式的东西，如果不是精品，
These
也打动不
European
了我。我要回
items,
去
if
收
it
藏。
was not
我收藏它也
delicately
没什么代
made,
理机会
finely made,
哎，
I
就是
wouldn't have
北
bought
美
it.
慈悲音开通了之后呢，很多东
When
西都
we
是比较
opened
高贵
CiBeiYin
对，相比
North
之下
America store,
这
a
些
lot of the
在西
items
方
are
都是
finely
宫廷级
made
啊，
and
这样的一个瓷器的时候，价钱还
look
不是
at
特别高。哎，那我这边呢，就是等于几乎平价，
and when I
就
bought
拿出来
these,
所以
um,
呢，就是满足大家一种感觉。
it's not very highly
它特别
priced,
显白的
and it's about the
想起
same
说
price
您
as I
右
had
手
bought
边
it.
有一尊特别美华贵，
On Master's right
对
hand
不知
side,
道用
there
什么样
is
赞美它
什么东西啊
的词，就是
there is a piece of
那个叫
porcelain.
什么皇家的一
What's
个
it called?
碟
The royal
碟子哈。
对
blue,
现在竖
um,
在
the
竖在这个
plate,
跟前的
the
我都不
plate
用
in
拿
front of
你看看
Master.
你自己在那放着，你看一下那个图案有多么精美。
Look at
哎那
the
个镜头你
painting.
给它放大一点，
Look at the
这
image
是
in
用
the
黄
center
金画
of
上的
the
画，看看
plate.
有没有人给他拍一下？朋友帮个忙。
It's
有
哎，对，好，谢谢。
it's
哎你看看
gorgeously
用黄金
hand
画上的画
painted.
我都舍不得去摸它，
I don't even dare to touch it.
就这么精美。这个蓝就是叫皇家蓝，
This is a cobalt
这个
blue,
金
a royal
就是
blue
真
porcelain,
金，
and
真
it's
是一
painted,
看就是大富大
hand
贵。
painted with
那个
22
边的
karat
涂层
gold,
都那么厚，
and it's also painted on the rim of the
多美。
plate.
这些也都是将近100年的了。这一件
And
瓷器
this one is almost 100 years
这些都
old,
不是特别老哈，都是60年到120年左右的。
from 60 to 100.
就是
and 20
西人的这
years
些
old.
瓷器。
These are European porcelain.
你看这个碟子上画的美不美？
Look at the painting on the
大家可以
plate.
看。
It's beautiful.
这个碟子已经有主了哈。
This
我就是给大家介绍。
plate is already
这些东西
sold,
你
but
不
I
在
just
意
want to
真
tell
品
you
啊
about it.
但是你
Whether
出
or
手
not
晚其实
you
已经多数都已经
buy
被人
it
都定了啊。对。
然后就是，如果其实也是讲的，像这个碟子，本来你也可以用啦，但是呢，就是像
You
我们
could
这样的
use this
能够把它
plate.
竖起来
However,
放
if
有用
you
只能展示，
however you can just
要不然
display
就可
it.
惜了，给它磨掉。
Otherwise, it's a pity if all the
所以
painting
这
are
么多
rubbed
年保
off.
存之前的这些
It's
人
been
都是贵
kept.
人，不会用它来盛东西的。
It's been
这是
kept
展示。
beautifully.
它之前的
People who
展示
had it
啊
previously
是
didn't
放在有
use
玻
it
璃的柜
as
子里
eating
去展示的，
utensils. They would display
它
it
那
in
后面
a
那个
glass
架啊
cabinet,
都用那个钓鱼线，
and
后面的
they
丝
would
绑
secure
在旁边，就是有
secure
晃
it
动的话也
with
不会损毁。
with
他们做了很多
fishing
保护
wire,
还
so
留存到
that
现
the
在。
plate could
所以
be
你再一看也
protected.
是新的，
And
其
that's
实
why
很老。
when you look at, you feel that it's new,
期
but
望就
it's
是我们慈悲音
it's
上
already
有缘的
vintage.
结缘的也是，第一个也都是师傅收藏的这些宝品，能够到
So
你的家里
the items
一定也
on
会
CiBeiYin North
直播
America,
推销了，
哎，不是，我的意思就是，请你一定好好的保护。
if you have a
对，要保
chance
这
to
个
buy
是
these,
我想
make
传
sure
达
that
给
you
我们的
take
网友
good
的
care of
哎
them.
就是爱护它，珍惜它。
像我
and
们这位
cherish
中国
it.
网友吧，他拿着多贵的壶，他说哎，师傅加持壶来浇上水来给大家，他很善心说拿着给大家
Some-
做加持水。其实你不知道这个东西
Some
有多
people
贵。
are not
很多东西
well
啊，它是
cultivated
有就
and
好
they
了，而不
are
要再去把它去
sluggish
一定给人
when
倒
they
水哈。那
and
就
they
一
would
旦损
say
伤一
that,
点
oh,
哈
Master
我这
blessed
里你
it,
可能请
and
的
I
不
want to
贵，
use this
但
to
是
pour you
你
water
再花10
to
倍的
give
钱，你
you
买不到
tea.
第二件，没
No
地
matter how much you bought it,
这里的东
it
西哈，
would be
几
very
乎都是微
difficult
型
to
性
find the second
啊
one if you
这些
damage
瓷器没
it.
那么老，你想找到
Also,
一个
these
同样的也是很
porcelains
难
are
的
not very old,
都是
but
手工做
it's
的
very difficult to
这些
find
佛像更别提了，这个难得一
a
见。
similar one.
这些都是太珍贵的宝贝了，也不会就是跟大家马上结缘的这样。
对，像这些瓷器哈，就是西方人
These
做这些瓷器，
porcelain,
这
these
些制作的
European
公司
porcelains
就在那个国家是叫顶尖的公司
are
做
made by the
不是
best
普通民用的
company
这些
in
茶具
that
不
country.
是民用的
They're
它
they're
都是
not
收藏
mass
级最高贵的
production
那个级别
teaware,
就大家看
and
这
they
颜色
were
就看出
made
来
for
所以
collection.
你看这个蓝的，我们一般中国人不用吧？这是皇家蓝，这个蓝
This
配金
royal
啊
blue
这叫
is
富贵无比。
is beautiful, and
才
when
能
royal
达到那个
blue
程
is
度
paired
你用完了
with
黄金
gold,
头才能用蓝配金，叫极致
it
的
is
富贵
it shows a high state
在宫
of
廷里是皇太后才用这样的
status.
一个配搭。
Back in the days, only the Emperor Douglas can use such a combination of royal blue and gold.
嗯，就
When
可
you
以了
place
就不
it,
要
it
让它
would
真拿来
bring you
泡
very
茶
good
倒
feng
水
shui.
啊
Don't
它
actually
很
use
重
it
要
to make tea or drink
对，我
wine.
去个日本人家呢，
I
他
have
当时
been
他
to
们
a
家就是有一
Japanese
个
home
还不是宋代的，就是明代的一个茶碗，
in the Japanese
哎，
in
去他
that
们家，
Japanese home. They
哇，那
had
些传
a
得很
teacup
庄重
from the Ming Dynasty,
哎，完了铺上榻榻米上头弄个小桌子，
and
他家最贵重的小桌子，要铺上非
They
常
put
正规的
out
那种那个盖的那个布，
they put
啊
out
还穿上和服，
the
戴
tatami
上白
and
手套
put on
师
traditional
傅
clothing
我请个
and
国
put
宝
on
给你看一下
white glove
哎，完了之
and
后
brought me
在里头磕
brought
磕巴
out
半天
a
端出来一个小盒儿，
a
这
very
小盒儿
small
3层盒
box.
子
He
一层
wanted
就
to
一
show
层
me
一
his
层
treasure,
打开了之
and
后
there are
啊，就
3
包着那么
boxes
厚厚的布
layered in
再
each
打
other.
开，其
And
实
then
就是一个
there
小茶碗，
there are
明
6
代的
layers
龙泉
of
瓷龙泉窑的小茶碗，
cloths
能拿那
that
个碗来
protected
给我
a very
杯
small
茶
piece of cup.
啊只喝一
It's a
杯算了，我
Longquan
真
cup
是我
from
第
the
一次
Ming
让人喝
Dynasty,
茶这一
and
掌柜
he
就收起来
served
恭
tea
恭敬敬
in
地说
that
连叠的时候那个姿势一
in
直在
that
对的，
cup.
就是。
And we only have one cup of tea, and he sincerely put it away. When you feel that it is a treasure, when you feel that it is a collectible, you want to protect it in a safe place. If you accidentally knock it on something and damage it, it would be a pity. If we drop that teacup in that Japanese family, he would feel very, very bad. It's not about display, but when you have it, you have brought blessing, you have brought Buddha and auspiciousness home. It doesn't mean that you have to bring it to this person and that person to show this and show that. If you accidentally bump it somewhere, it would be very pitiful. And when you place it, when you have it at home, remember to hold it with both of your hands. Say that if you want to clean it, make sure that your table is clean and you have enough space, and place some thick layers of cloth so that you can protect it, and hold it with both of your hands. If there is a lid, put the lid to the side. Otherwise, when you hold the teacup, you might lose the lid. If the lid is gone, then the value will be lower, and you will feel very bad after you have damaged it. And also, if you show it to someone, don't pass it on side by side. Put it on the table so that the other person can see it. Don't take it directly from that person's hand. Otherwise, in the process of handing it over, if the teapot is dropped, then who dropped it, right? So when you hold on to these treasures, be very careful. And also, if it's gold, then you need to wear gloves. These are just some small reminders. And when I collect these, I don't try to change how it looks. I would just clean the top layer of maybe dust. I wouldn't clean it too much. I don't want to damage it. If it's that old, then it has that color naturally. Why do I have to clean it back to brand new? And so when you buy on CiBeiYin.com, whatever it is, it is. I don't change how it looks. Otherwise, it would feel like a forgery. And after you have bought it, you can do whatever you want with it. But when I collect these, I don't touch it. I don't do any human changes. And I don't have to mend it. I don't have to repair it. It is as it is. If there is a screw that's loose, if there is a screw that's missing, I don't fix it. And if there is a screw missing and you want to return it, I don't take any returns, because how delicate they are and how difficult it is to ship it. These are too delicate to be shipped back and forth. So before you make a purchase, look at it carefully online. It is as it is, and don't fake anything. But because how delicate they are, when they're damaged, the value changes. So before you purchase it, think it over. These treasures are worth passing on for generations in your family. For example, this Buddha statue, if you bought it 15, 20 years ago, if you bought it for $100,000, that's already very fortunate. But how much would it worth now? It could worth more than $500,000, and you have nowhere to buy it. There are more and more people who realize the value of these antiquities, and more and more people wants it. And you might feel that it's very expensive, but if you look at the history, the art, the meaning of it, how difficult it is to pass on for so many years, then $1 million is not so much. In Vancouver, if you buy a 2-bedroom apartment, it's already over $1 million. Previously, in one of the pictures that we saw, when it's labeled for $1 million, I think it's worth more than $5 million. The value of the antiquities are undervalued. In some auctions, people might try to get a collectible to be a certain price, and it might not reflect the true value. Recently, we have released a new healing music to help you with sleep, and many people left many messages. Some people said that they counted for less than 2 minutes before they fall asleep, and they had a very deep sleep. One of the practitioners left a message on Facebook. She says that her child is doing prostrations, is practicing prostrations, and the mom is sitting on the side and listening to this music. And the child only did 4 prostrations before he fell asleep on the prostration mat. She suddenly realized that her son has stopped doing prostrations, and he has fallen asleep listening to this music. Many people had very good comments and reflections of this healing music. I didn't realize that so many people have sleeping issues. I thought that most people would have a very good sleep like me. But now I realize that there are more than half of people who cannot have a good sleep. The more anxiety you have, the less sleep you have. When you're troubled, you don't have a good sleep. I trust that the sound of the singing bowl is very effective. It's different from other sleeping music because when I play the singing bowls, I use my dharmic power to calm your spirit. In China, I've held ceremonies, energy blessing ceremonies of over 10,000 people, and I have used my Dharma power to make many people sleep during the ceremony. And I used it's a special Dharmic power to calm your spirit, to make you sleep in this healing music. I used this dharmic power as I sounded the singing bowls so that you can have a good night's sleep, a peaceful sleep. And that's why this music have such good effect. I hope that this music can truly bring you help. when you have a good night's sleep, it will make you feel energetic during the day and make you healthier. If you feel that this healing music is very helpful to you, I encourage you to share it with your families and friends. And for people who have issues with insomnia, they can change their situation. When you share this music, it's also you're making good merit. During the pandemic, I hope that you can. I have also started another 24-hour live broadcast of the Sakyamuni Buddha's chant. This is a 24-hour live session, so you can chant whenever you want. You can use it as a meditation practice, and also it can help you to protect yourself during the pandemic. So when you are sitting in meditation, you can chant along with it, or you can just sit and be blessed by the chanting. If you chant for 30 minutes a day, that's very good. As you chant, you could enter a state of meditation, and that will bring you very good effects, especially for your health. And it could also develop your wisdom. And so now it's available on YouTube. You can listen to it. There's no beginning, there's no end. Just go in, click open, and chant along. All right. Chinese New Year is very near. I will arrange for a Chinese New Year chanting class online so that everyone can receive more benefits. First, that we can protect ourselves against the pandemic and receive auspicious blessings, avoid evil energies, become healthy and happy. So in these few days, I am planning for this online chanting class. Stay tuned for the good news. All right, so that's all for today's live session. We've talked about a wide range of knowledge. So I mainly wanted to share the history of Northern Wei and Northern Qi dynasty, and also the stories of the Buddha statues and characteristics of these Buddha statues in these Northern Wei and Northern Qi period. These Buddha statues are almost the earliest Buddha statues of Chinese sculpture, but later on, almost no Buddha statue can compare to the beauty of these Northern Qi, Northern Wei period Buddha statues. I hope you have learned something. Thank you, Master. I have enjoyed it. If you like it, tell it to your friends and families. You can also share the link to this video so more people can learn about it. And during the pandemic, we can now go out and visit our friends. You can learn more about history and art, and that will be very interesting. All right, so that's all for tonight's live session. May all your wishes come true. May you live a long life. May you be healthy. Let's meet again next time.
生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，生命变得更坚定，不忧忧无虑。因为有了你，日子不再有哭泣，不再有恐惧。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，了解生命的真理，修行的意义。因为有了你，日子犹如彩虹般，彩虹般美丽。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。我快乐了，我美丽了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与您相遇。小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，生命变得更坚定，不忧忧无虑。因为有了你，日子不再有哭泣，不再有恐惧。 寻